My advice always been the same. Buy guitar based on the sound and the feel, not based on philosophy. Paul Reed Smith, once again, said something a little controversial, not too much, but a little, that took the internet by a very small storm. Still a storm, but a small one. This is what Paul said. The country a guitar is made in does not matter much. Paul Reed Smith thinks people should stop obsessing about guitars being made in America. It's always been about the skill level of the guitar makers. Okay. That sounds all right on surface. In guitar making, a great deal of emphasis is placed on the location in which instruments are made. Guitars made in the United States tend to command higher prices than those made in Japan, Indonesia, South Korea, for example, but is there really much of a difference as we think? This is what Paul said. I've always believed that it's not about the country that an instrument is made in. It's always about the skill level of the guitar makers. When we first started traveling to overseas guitar manufacturing facilities, we found that almost all their training over the decades had been to go fast, while our teaching about how to make instruments was about how to go well. In other words, the overseas manufacturing plants were about the quantity, just make stuff and go, and didn't have a high regard for quality because the numbers was the focus. Whereas if you know PRS, Paul Reed Smith guitars are like one of the most prestiged guitar brands in the world. They're all about the quality. So he's saying that basically this is a training issue. Once they knew how to go well, they didn't know how to slow down. Now he's talking about kind of a plus side, saying that, look, they were already efficient to spit out the numbers, like just to make. And then after we taught them how to do it correctly, with high quality, then it was just like they didn't know how to slow down. So it's just like the best of both worlds. And the guitars they produce are of the same caliber as what we make here. Right. Okay. Offering advice to guitar players, he concludes, if you're looking for an instrument, you should evaluate it the same way, regardless of the country of the manufacturer. How does it look? How does it feel in your hands? How does it sound acoustically? How does it sound electrically? Most importantly, will it do the job that you want? Guitar is a tool to make music and should be evaluated as such no matter its country of origin. Let's break this down one by one and tackle the points that Paul made one by one. I agree with the last statement that he made, saying that if you're looking to buy an instrument, evaluate it as an instrument. Play with it, see how it sounds acoustically and electrically, see how it feels, see how it looks, and take it from there. And I 100% agree. For years now, every time somebody asks me for advice on buying their first guitar, my advice always been the same. Buy guitar based on the sound and the feel, not based on philosophy. Because it's not just that. Like, a lot of times people get so tangled up in the tone wood argument, so now they go to a guitar store and they look for guitars that are made out of mahogany wood or maple or ash or whatever, right? And they pick up the guitar, they're so sold on the idea that a guitar is made out of mahogany is supposed to sound like this and the mids are a little higher, that they actually don't see the guitar for what it is. I've seen a lot of that example. Like, you go there and be like, oh, nice, tap, 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 mahogany, haha, as if like that makes a difference. So my advice has always been, forget about the philosophy, forget about the slogan, buy with sound and feel. So when Paul says, if you're looking for an instrument, evaluate it by how it looks like, how it feels in your hands, how it sounds acoustically and electrically, and does it do what it's supposed to do, right? I agree with it 100%. 100%. That's a perfect advice for anyone who wants to buy a guitar. However, when he says something around the lines of, it's only a training issue, I agree with it mostly. However, there are things that I disagree with. There are things there are nuances there to talk about. So for us to discuss this, let me give you an example. Football. Saudi Arabia. Saudis have a lot of oil money, have a lot of money. It's a rich country, and they can afford, buying players and great coaches and facilities and all that. I think Ronaldo plays in Saudi, no? Al Nasser FC, right? And if you look at Al Nasr FC, where is this? Where did you got? It's a Saudi Arabian professional football club, right? Saudi Arabian's been importing great coaches for a long time to train their players. Bruno Mezzo, Frank Rijkaard, I think at some point was there. A lot of great coaches been there to help training him up. Why isn't Saudi Arabian football clubs to the same caliber as the Spanish or the English football clubs, right? So my question to you is, if you bring a great coach and put him next to some football players from Saudi Arabia, for example, number one, how long will it take that coach to train those people, right? If you bring the coach today, will they be great players in a year, right? And number two, the cultural bit, because Paul said, look, it's about the skill of the luthier, 100%, and about how much care they put in, which the how much care bit is the culture bit, right? If you bring a coach into a group of adults that are already working in that industry, how far the coach can go, the trainer can go, the master luthier can go in changing the culture. Because understand that we're taking the coach and trying to train professionals that are already working in that industry. We're not getting a 17-year-old kid who's new to the whole thing, and we bring some coaches from the US, we take him to Indonesia or Saudi Arabia or whatever other country, and then trying to build them up from there. We're training adults that are already working in that industry or adjacent. So number one, then, let's have a think about how long will it take to train them and how far we can go culturally. As opposed to a country like the United States, where being a guitar maker is already established. When being a guitar maker is already part of the culture, an important guitar, electric guitar is an important part of the culture. Pop rock music, jazz music. I mean, you get the point. And then as a guitar maker, do you want to make all of that investment in training and changing the culture in a scenario where you spend years training somebody up or fixing the way they're doing things, and then they can just leave and they're just gone? They're just sick and tired of this job or found a better opportunity, and they're going to go to another manufacturing plant or another job or whatever. As opposed to making your guitars in the United States or in Japan, where there is already an established industry and a large talent pool, a large skill pool there, which you don't necessarily have to kill yourself to develop. And if you lose your current talent, you can still find others to come in and replace that talent, as opposed to, again, you having to training up new people. Think about that. Can't have the exact same skills where there's no infrastructure, where people in that part of the world haven't been doing this for this extended period of time, this amount of time. The longer a society's been doing it, the better they get at it, and the next generation gets better and better and better, and they end up being ahead of the game. Japan and US in guitar making. If Paul really believed this, I would encourage Paul to then, make some core models and S2 models in Indonesia, brother. If that's really the truth, if that's really the reality, you'd be able to make some core models in Indonesia for a lot cheaper than what you would do in the US, because the material is probably cheaper there and the labor is probably cheaper there. And the same luthiers that you pay, to make these custom guitars and the core models and all that, still pay them, still keep them, use them as advisors and as mentors in all the other facilities. If that was possible, I think you should be doing that like yesterday. But I don't think it's possible, and I don't think it's the case. So, do you agree or disagree with what I talked about here? You can comment your thoughts under this video and we can exchange it there. You can subscribe to the channel and you see more of my videos, and you can follow me on my Twitch channel and you get a notification every time I go live, so that we can have an online live exchange right there. No filters, no cut and edits, just raw conversation. So if you're into it, you can find me there as well. Thanks for hanging out. Take a good care of yourself.